What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, and this is the first part in, well, actually, it's not the first part, but technically the first organized part, in a series of me reviewing all the officially released 1974 Grateful Dead concerts. Last Sunday, I did the Mars Hotel 50th anniversary release, which had I think it was May 12th, 1974. The bonus concert was a 74 concert in line with the Mars Hotel release. And I really enjoyed listening to that, even though on my ranking of all 1974 shows, it would probably not be at the top. In fact, it's not. I have a list. I'm going to show it to you at the end of this video. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to review every single 1974 Grateful Dead concert that's been released and do all of those and rank them. I've already done all the Dave's picks. I've already done all the Dick's picks. I've already done Steal Your Face, which was from October of 74. And I've done the Mars Hotel. I'm going to drop that list of where those would fall in my ranking at the end of this video. I have videos for all of those elsewhere on the channel if you're interested. But going forward from here on out, I'm going to tackle the Road Trip 74 shows, tackle any bonus material 74 shows, tackle the Pacific Northwest 74 shows, the closing of Winterland. The closing of Winterland was 78. The Grateful Dead movie, because I do think that's different than See Your Face. It is. But I'm going to cover all those things and have a complete ranking of all 74 things because that is my favorite Grateful Dead tour. But after that, I'm going to go to 77. I was going to go to 73, but I'm going to mix it up. Because 77, I would also put in the category as possibly being my favorite. And then I'm going to do 73, and then I'm probably going to do 70, get my favorite tours out of the way first. And then I'm going to fill in all those gaps. Because I really like listening to the Grateful Dead, and I like, when I got time to kill, I like making these videos. So today we're talking about Road Trips, Volume 2, Number 3. This came out in 2009. It is not two complete shows. The Road Trips volumes are essentially, they would pick a show or pick a run of shows and drop the highlights. And man, did they drop some highlights. We got materials from the June 16th, 1974 show. We got material from the June 18th, 1974 show. Each of those comprises an entire disc of music. Not complete shows, not even in the same order. They'd be like a first set song, and then some second set songs, and maybe another first set song. So they're mixing them around, but listening to them, zero complaints. Zero complaints. What we get on here, there's also a bonus disc of stuff from both of these shows, that wasn't released on this. Even without the bonus disc, this release, it's gonna jump really, really high, if not to the absolute top of my 74 list. What we get here, disc 1, 7 tracks, opens up with the China Rider, and this China Rider, the China Cat, is friggin' amazing. I would say this everything from the June 16th show, by this point in 74, I think the 74 is my favorite tour. But a lot of the times, there's two versions of the Dead in 74. There's that version where, we've played these songs dozens and dozens of times. We know what we're doing. We're really good. We're locked in. Kreutzmann is holding it down like nobody's business in the back. Mickey's not here at this time. Everybody's just bringing their A game every night. And there are nights where it's just like, that's all they have to do. Bring your A game. Do what you always do in Eyes of the World. Do what you do in Playing in the Band and Explore. Do what you do in Let It Grow. It's perfection what you normally do. But then there are other nights, and June 16th, 1974 is one of those nights, when it feels like they're like, you know what? We know what we're doing, and we know we can go out there and just blow the roof off this sucker, but why don't we try something a little bit different? Why don't we just jam a little bit different or explore different areas? Or the comparison that came to mind first is like downhill, bike riding, not motorbike riding, but maybe even motorbike riding to some extent, but dirt bike riding, like downhill racing, those mountain bike races in Paris or Tibet or those other countries where it's like you're going for 45 minutes or an hour. Most of the time, or even if we're talking about motocross in a loop, before you compete in these things, you go out and you find your lines. You find where you're going to attack. You know if you're doing a bunch of switchbacks, whether you want to take the high or you want to take the inside. Like, you have lines that you know you're going to be able to ride better. I would say 75% of the dead shows in 74, they're riding those lines and they're winning every race. The June 16th, 74 show, it's like, you want to try some different lines tonight? You want to just do stuff a little bit different and see if we succeed? And there are times in this show where it just feels like, oh my gosh, what are they doing? Is this going to work? Is it going to fall apart? And you can just see entropy at the edges just threatening to come in and like have things fall apart. But it doesn't. And the songs, as a result, sound refreshed, and they sound just different, and they sound a little bit edgy, and the band just sounds like there's a relentless exploratory energy in the June 16th show that just, if this was a single disc and all you got were these 7 songs, this is still going to bump up to the top of my list. That is how good this first disc is. An 11-minute China Cat Sunflower. Before we even get to the Feeling Groovy Jam, this is 74, so we got a Feeling Groovy Jam in there. We've gone places in this China I don't know if we've ever gone before. It's just weird. It's a little bit funky. It's a little bit dissonant, but it's none of those things 100%, but you get like little fragments of all this stuff. It is a China Rider for the ages. Like, I'm all in by the time the China Rider ends. The Rider, a little bit just standard Rider, doesn't matter. The China is worth, I think is almost worth the entire purchase. The Race Is On is next. Sweet, sweet choice. Beautiful Race Is On. Then we get an Eyes of the World, a 20-minute Eyes of the World. 74, like minute to pretty much just set it up. We're not really getting any solo in or exploring before it. We go through our verses. As soon as we hit the final verse and we're off into jam territory, Phil is just right there. He's going off. He's doing his bass solo thing almost as soon as the vocals end. Jerry eventually is kind of pulling back until he feels like Phil has had enough. Then Jerry just comes in with that full, like, eyes attack. Bill, super active, super funky. Kreutzmann is really pushing things in this Eyes of the World. And as this jam goes on for about 6 minutes before we get to like the not Stronger Than Dirt, but sounds like Stronger Than Dirt jam, which doesn't drop until like 13 and a half minutes into this Eyes, we have so much exuberant non-Eyes energy that just seems to kind of be fighting its way through. Like, no, we're not doing what we do in Eyes. We're not going into the Stronger Than Dirt jam. We're doing other things. But the gravity of it being Eyes is making sure that we stay in like Eyes of the World, sort of slightly jazzy territory. But you can feel that impetus to just go other places and like break out. Like, let's not do that Stronger Than Dirt jam. Can we do something else? But they eventually get the Stronger Than Dirt that is not Stronger Than Dirt jam, but it sounds like it. That is absolutely fantastic. And once that ends, we kind of are off exploring again. It's like, okay, we got through with that. We had to do it. Let's go off again. And then we get about 2 minutes left in the jam, like country energy. Like, it's a little bit country. It's a little bit weird. It's a little bit like hoedowny, little like squiggly little jam coming in there that is a country flavor. Because then what do? We go right into Big River. And that last 2.5 minutes prior to going into Big River, it's just like, it's the Dead normally don't play this. It's a new territory. They've broken free. They've discovered new ground, and they're going to take that energy and put it into one of the most satisfying Big Rivers I've ever heard. Maybe it's just because it's coming after an epic Eyes of the World, but the Big River, it just works. Then we get a U.S. Blues, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the opener of the second set. I don't think it drops at this point. I think it's earlier. It works well in the context of this disc. And then we get a 28, almost 29-minute playing in the band. Many people, I possibly on this channel, have said also that every single playing in the band from 1974 deserves to be heard. This is another piece of evidence in that case. If you want another piece of evidence in the case that every playing in the band from 1974 should be heard, go listen to any other playing in the band from 1974, because they all should be heard. This one is 28 minutes. Soon as we enter the jam session, psych energy is strong. It's going great. Bob is super aggressive on the rhythm guitar. He is kind of pushing us in new directions. You know, Jerry's just doing the psych exploratory thing, but Jerry almost seems to be not taking the lead here and letting, like, everybody's firing on all their cylinders. And Jerry seems to be like, okay, I'm going to go where the energy just takes me. I don't need to be in control right now. I'll flow with the energy. And this goes, there's a restlessness to this. Again, there's this like, let's not do what we've always done. Around 8 minutes, this first sort of post-vocal push starts to fall apart. Entropy starts to set in. Like we feel like we're maybe going to go into a space section, but Bill never leaves. And Bill keeps trying to start up different ideas, either like writing the cymbals or doing stuff on the toms. He tries, but the chaos kind of just always seeps back in. The entropy seeps back in. The urge to go into deep space seeps back in. But they never actually go into deep space. There's always somebody there. Like Bob will do something, or Bill mostly. It seems like Bill's the one like, hey, I'm not leaving the stage, guys. I'm here. We're not going into deep space. Bill just keeps bringing the energy back up. We get a short little tiger run in there in which things start to threaten to go super crazy right about the halfway point, little over the halfway point. Get a nice tiger. It's pretty short, but it's also pretty crazy. That kind of leads us into a really weird psych section where everybody's playing a different song at this point. It's not complete chaos, but it does feel like we all got different ideas about where this jam should go 18 minutes into the jam. There are some weird, I don't know if it's Keith doing this, because I don't think I've ever heard Keith do this, like C Stone-esque weird noises like that are starting to seep in at this part of the jam that give it a space vibe, even though Bill's still there being super active. It just keeps going. Like, it's just like the predictable patterns that planes usually bring, they're not here. The tendency to go into space, it's not here. That like all the things that we think are going to happen just don't happen. And it's like they're just struggling to survive and keep this like fresh idea created. Finally, that made no sense. Around the 21-minute mark, things finally come unraveled. And we get a brief little moment where like, okay, something weird's going to happen now. And almost immediately, Bill again just starts building up the energy. We rebuild it up. It's slightly weird for a while. Jerry's pushing the jam, the psych energy. Things are going weird until finally, okay, there it is. The Playing in the Band reprise. It's just like every other Playing in the Band from 1974. You think you know where they're going to go, and like, no, we're not going there. We're actually going to stay here longer than you ever thought. Or yeah, we are going there, but nope, we got to go because somebody else. It's an exhilarating Playing the Band. It ends this disc. It is absolutely a must hear. Then we get disc 2, which is from 2 days later. And the band just spent an entire evening, I'm assuming the rest of the show is them trying to find new lines. Now they're like, hey man, can we just ride the lines we already know and just knock this one out of the ballpark the easy way? Yeah, it's still hard. I mean, we still got to put some effort into it, but let's not actively look for new things to do. Let's just do what we always do and do it better than anybody else. Opens up with a Loose Lucy. Loose Lucy is one of those songs, along with My Brother Esau, which I just don't think the band ever really figured out what exactly to do with it. There was a period, I would say, when they brought it back, and like towards their last decade, when Loose Lucy was kind of working. I think an older Jerry singing Loose Lucy was a great image. This is one of those where it's kind of funky. It just feels like they don't know what they're doing. It's kind of weird. There are times where it's kind of hesitant, and I think Jerry drops some lines. It's a weird Loose Lucy. Then we get an Eyes of the World. And again, this is like, we're writing our lines, we're doing what we do, but it's aggressive. Like, we're hitting it hard. We're coming at it hard. We get everything we want out of an Eyes of the World. The one from the previous show, the Stronger Than Dirt, a jam, dropped around the 13.5-minute mark. This one drops right after the 11-minute mark, about 2.5 minutes shorter. And the band is just soaring at this point. Like, it's just effortless. They hit that Stronger Than Dirt thing just like perfectly. They hit all the marks. They hit all the transitions. The energy is honed in, and everybody's just like, we're going as fast as we can down this mountain, and it just sounds amazing. And then after the Stronger Than Dirt jam, we get several minutes of jamming before things start to slowly melt and calm down and ease their way into one of the greatest transitions the Dead ever did. And they did it kind of frequently in this era. We go into China Doll, and like there's China Doll, Bow Down, China Doll, just absolutely perfect song. We get a nice China Doll. After China Doll, we get a weather report suite. Awesome weather report suite. All parts sound good. Part one sounds great. Part two sounds great. The jams in really high energy jams in the Let It Grow part of this. When we get to that sort of middle jam, or like not the first middle jam, but the second jam, the dun dun dun, that part jam, everybody is driving this bus. Like Bob is on 100. Phil is pushing it. Bill is pushing it. Even Keith gets some really sweet moments. Like everybody is locked in and like going 100%. There's a 9.5 minute jam after the weather report suite. It could essentially be a 25-minute weather report suite, but right at the end of like when the transition happens around the 16.5 minute mark, things do drastically kind of just fall apart. Like it just like entropy happens and everything's like, okay, we fell apart. The energy's gone. But the central theme around which they're jamming is no longer there, but nobody stops playing. Like Bob's still doing weird things. Jerry's still going off. Phil's still going off. It's just there's a little more space, a little more sparseness. You can tell they need to sort of regather, but it doesn't sound like anybody's actually stepping back and regathering. They're just like, let's just keep going and maybe we'll click. And so they keep going. And of course they click. We get a nice... Oh, no, at this point we keep going. Oh yeah, we do keep going for a very short while. Like this is like a 9-minute jam. So maybe a couple minutes. And then we finally actually get like a space, but it's a really pretty space. Jerry's doing his like playing like little like arpeggios on the guitar and bringing that little like maybe we're going to go into like some other song type thing. So it's really kind of pretty. But then again, Bill comes in and starts accelerating the jam and picks it back up. And all of a sudden things are going up and we're like accelerating, we're driving and we're heading. About 4.5 minutes after this like re-acceleration jam, we head into the other one. Jerry's there. Dun-dun-dun-dun. I think Bill starts it first with a little like sort of Marshall type drums. We're in it for about 10 seconds. Like it's clear. We're going into the other one when all of a sudden Phil just like drops the bomb, does the run, drops the bomb. And the jam before the first vocals is like 3 minutes of just high energy, other one, psych, full attack, like just go guys, just hit this song hard. We get the first vocals around 3 minutes. The first jam is just the other one energy pushed to its limits. Like we're under control. It's high energy. Everybody's going at it. We're not really going anywhere too far out. We're not discovering new lines. It's just going. That goes for a couple minutes before once again, entropy hits. We go into a little space section. Bill's like soloing like crazy over the space section. So it's not really space. It's just like things are falling apart and there's more space. This goes on for a while until, what is this? This is a 15, 16 minute. It's about, I don't know, about 8.5 minutes, 9 minutes into it. The last, 7 minutes of this is amazing. We get some weird experimental, everybody almost dropping some King Crimson type energy funk in like around the 8:30 mark. It gets weird, it gets spacey, it gets funky. It's like experimentation at its best. And then from 12.5 minutes on, the last 3 minutes of this, they drop into a funk groove. Like this is some of the funkiest stuff. This is like something you're going to find in a Shakedown Street like 10 years later. It is absolutely amazing. Like I wrote in my notes that the last 3.5, 4 minutes of here should be a separate track. It should be indexed out so that people are like, hey, why is this called something different? Oh, because it's a really sick Grateful Dead funk jam. Like it's the funkiest thing the Dead were doing in 74. It's absolutely amazing. Just phenomenal. Then that goes into an It's a Sin jam. Straight up blues jam. Jerry is squeezing out those blues notes. He is feeling this thing. It is just like, once we get out of that funk jam, like, we're not starting a new song. We're still in the middle of jam, but they drop it so that we're like, hey, man, we're doing an It's a Sin jam right now. We're bringing some blues in. Funk's back there. The blues are ahead of us. Let's reel it in. And Jerry is just feeling this. It's an abrupt but very effective, and it works gear shift in the middle of the funk jam. They jam on that for about 3+ minutes, and then they go into a Stella Blue to close out the disc. And the Stella Blue, it's just your perfect Stella Blue. Jam isn't too long at the end. The solo isn't too long. It's absolutely perfect. Jerry's honed in and focused. It's exactly what we need at the end of like the chaos that was essentially not chaos, but just the pure musical genius that was Weather Report, Jam, other one, It's a Sin. And Stella Blue is like, oh, okay, we safely made it home. It's a perfect 2 discs. It's absolutely the band in top form. There is a bonus disc. I don't think you can get it. I think you had to get the bonus disc when you order it. This is still a great release without the bonus disc, but the bonus disc is a really solid Morning Dew from the second show, which I believe followed quite a ways after. I think there were a couple more songs after Stella Blue before the Morning Dew dropped, and an Around and Around. And then from the first show, you get A Deal, Greatest Story, Truckin', and then the highlight of this, a nice 12.5-minute Nobody's Fault But Mine jam, which is, I think, is a pretty common coming out of Truckin', having that blues energy. Without a doubt, the highlight of this disc. We get a nice Wharf Rat, a pretty solid Going Down the Road Feeling Bad that is some really nice jamming energy, and then a Sugar Mag. But yeah, the bonus disc doesn't matter. Whether or not you have the bonus disc does not matter, because the first 2 discs are darn near perfect. Where would I rank this among all the other 74 I've done? There are all the other 74 I've done right there. I have this at number 2. Yeah, it's at number 2. I have that. So what I have is I have all the Dix picks. I have the volume, the date, and at the end of the parentheses, where they ranked on those. So number 1, Dix Volume 12. It was the number 1 overall Dix picks. Number 3 was the number 3 overall Dix picks. Number 4 was the number 1 overall Dave's picks. I just happen to think the Dix Picks series is a little bit stronger than the Dave's Picks. So you can see what else I've done. There are videos for all of those out there. If you want to hear my comments on those, just search. But yeah, this is a number 2 release. The only reason number 1 is because it's a complete show. The stuff is great, but I do like the complete show aspect of it just a little bit more. Plus it has a Sea Stones on it, and I really, really enjoy Sea Stones. As I've gotten older, I have come to love Sea Stones much more. But yeah, anyways, I highly recommend this. Road Trips, Volume 2, number 3. This is really, like, there's nothing wrong with this. This is like a perfect 74 release. It's hit out of the ballpark. Good job, Grateful Dead. All right. Yeah, that's it. Subscribe, like, share, comment, do all those things, and go listen to this, man. It's fantastic. It's on streaming. I don't have a problem listening to the Dead on streaming because I have a bunch of cassettes. Yeah, cassettes. I have tapes. I still have a tape deck right here. Right there is my tape deck. You just can't see it. And on CDs, they let us tape their shows. So yeah, find this. Listen to it. Find a way to do it. It is amazing. All right. I've rambled enough. Peace. Talk to you later.